Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Thanks for having me.
Today, we're diving deep into mindset and success with Change Your Mindset, Change Your Life as our guide.
That's a good one.
We're not just skimming the surface. We're going for those aha moments, the insights that really make you rethink how you approach, well, everything.
It really does make you think.
So are you ready to get started?
Absolutely.
Okay, so the book lays out 13 principles, but reading those is just step one.
Right.
It's like, how do we actually apply this stuff?
Yeah.
The first principle is desire, and this is where I already hit a snag. I mean, we all have things we'd like to do.
Sure.
But that burning desire, the kind that fuels real action,
Right.
how do we even cultivate that?
Well, you think about it like...
It's not like you can just flip a switch.
It's not a switch, no. It's more like, a muscle you have to train.
Oh, okay. I like that.
The book has this anecdote about a Chinese wise man, and he dunks this young guy's head underwater to illustrate the point, Like, that's the level of desire we need.
That's intense.
It is.
It makes me think of that other story in the book, the guy who gave up on his gold mine.
Oh, right. Just a few feet from a massive vein.
Talk about a lack of burning desire.
Seriously.
So persistence is huge, but it's not just about pushing blindly.
No, definitely not.
What if that miner had, gotten some expert advice?
Yeah. Imagine if he just talked to someone.
He might have struck gold, but he didn't.
He quit too soon.
So we got to admit when we need help.
Sometimes. Yeah. It can actually be faster that way.
That makes sense.
Which brings us to the second principle, faith.
Okay, so faith.
The book describes it as the fuel that powers our desires.
Faith. I struggle with that word sometimes. It's not just blind belief, right?
Exactly.
What about faking it till you make it? Does that really work?
It's a fascinating idea, right?
Well, it feels like self-deception to me.
Well, the book talks about this thing called autosuggestion. It's like you keep telling yourself what you want to believe.
Really?
And eventually, your subconscious mind, it starts to catch on.
My subconscious mind. I'd never thought of it like that before.
It's a separate thing you have to talk to.
Yeah.
It is, in a way. It's powerful.
So with this autosuggestion thing, are we basically tricking ourselves?
Kind of.
I mean, you're not actually confident, or you're acting like it.
But it's not lying to yourself. It's more like shifting your focus from what you don't have to what you want.
Okay, so instead of focusing on I'm not confident,
right,
you're acting as if you already are.
And that sends a different signal to your subconscious.
Interesting.
It gives it evidence, to start believing.
But okay, even with faith and desire, you need the how-to, the knowledge.
That's where the third principle comes in.
Yeah.
Specialized knowledge.
So not just knowing stuff.
Right.
Not just trivia.
The right kind of knowledge. The kind that's useful in your field. It gives this example of university professors.
Okay.
Brilliant people.
Tons of general knowledge.
But they often struggle financially.
I know a few who fit that description.
Right. So you need practical knowledge, applicable skills.
Like I could have all the ingredients for a cake.
Exactly.
If I don't know how to bake, it's useless.
Useless ingredients.
So it's not just about accumulating facts.
It's about acquiring the knowledge that helps you get what you want.
That makes sense.
It's building your toolkit. The more specialized tools you have, the bigger the projects you can take on.
Got it. Okay, so we've got the desire, the faith, the knowledge.
Yeah.
Where does imagination fit in?
Now things get interesting. That's the fourth principle.
Okay, tell me more.
Imagination is the workshop of the mind.
Interesting.
And there are two types. Synthetic, that's rearranging existing ideas.
Okay.
And then creative imagination. That's where you tap into, a universal source.
A universal source, like a higher power.
You could say that. The book calls it infinite intelligence.
Whoa.
The source of real breakthroughs. Think of the telephone or understanding what the sun is made of.
So we can use our imagination even if we're not, inventing the next big thing.
Absolutely. It's about visualizing what you want and then...
planning how to get it.
Exactly. That's where principle 5 comes in. Organized planning.
Oh, so we're not just daydreaming here.
Yo.
We have to get strategic.
Gotta have a plan. And a key concept here is the mastermind principle.
Mastermind? What's that?
It's like forming alliances with people who can help you. Think of Steve Jobs and Wozniak, or Bill Gates and Paul Allen.
Okay, so building your dream team.
Exactly. You're leveraging each other's strengths.
But it's not just about taking.
No, of course not.
You've had to offer value to the other people in the group too, right?
Absolutely. It's a collaboration. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
I like that.
You combine your skills, your resources, even that psychic energy the book talks about.
Psychic energy. We'll have to get into that later.
We will. So you have desire, faith, knowledge, imagination, and then a plan with your mastermind. But what about when things go wrong?
Oh, yeah, because nobody's journey is perfect.
Right. And the book, it actually dedicates a whole section to the causes of failure. 27 of them.
27. What were some of the unexpected ones? I'm always curious about those.
Well, one that stood out was having a negative personality.
Makes sense. If you're constantly pushing people away,
Yeah.
it's tough to build relationships.
Exactly. No one wants to work with a Debbie Downer.
Especially in business. You need those connections.
You do. And then, of course, there's procrastination.
Procrastination.
We've all been there.
I think that's something everyone struggles with at some point.
Absolutely. But the book emphasizes action, overcoming inertia.
Easier said than done sometimes.
It is, but there's never a perfect time to start. Just start. Even small steps help.
Okay, that's good advice. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Just get moving.
Exactly.
What about indecision? That can really get you stuck too.
Oh, indecision is a killer. The book is very clear on that.
Yeah.
Make decisions promptly and stick to them.
Don't second guess yourself.
Right. Wavering gets you nowhere.
But there's so much advice out there. How do you know what decision to stick with? It could be so overwhelming.
It can. But the book, it reminds us that opinions are a dime a dozen. The cheapest commodity on earth, it says.
Oh, I like that.
So you have to filter out the noise.
Just your gut.
Sometimes, yes. Make decisions that align with your own desires and your plan.
Not what everyone else is telling you to do.
Exactly. And it also encourages listening, really listening.
Okay, interesting.
Because true wisdom, it says, is often expressed through modesty and silence.
So be quiet and observe.
Sometimes, yeah. That can be the best way to make a decision.
That's powerful. Okay, so we've covered desire, faith, specialized knowledge, imagination, organized planning, and then dealing with failure and indecision.
That's a lot.
I know, right? Are you ready to keep going?
Absolutely. We're just getting started.
Great. Let's dive back in.
Let's do it. Okay, so we've got those foundations, right? The planning, the bumps along the way.
Yeah, and how to deal with them. But how do we keep going when things get tough?
That's persistence. Principle number 8, pure grit,
But sometimes I feel like I'm running on fumes. How do we keep that fire burning, especially when self-doubt creeps in?
Well, the book has this analogy about snapping out of a nightmare.
Okay.
You regain control of your muscles bit by bit, first a finger, then an arm, then your whole body.
So it's like building mental muscle.
Exactly. It's willpower, strengthened through effort. But it's not just about pushing harder. It's about having that clear vision, the faith.
The support system, our mastermind group.
Exactly. They keep you going when you want to quit. And speaking of the mastermind,
the book comes back to that, but this time it's about power. I'm curious how those connect.
Well, the book says true power, the kind that leads to achievement, comes from knowledge, organized knowledge.
Okay, so the mastermind, with all its combined experience.
It becomes a platform for acquiring and using that knowledge. Makes you powerful.
But how do we actually harness that power? What does it look like in real life?
Well, the book talks about two aspects, economic and psychic. Economic is pretty straightforward, combining resources, skills.
Okay, but psychic. Now we're getting into the woo-woo stuff.
It's the idea that when minds work together harmoniously, they create this synergy, more than just the sum of the parts.
Like a collective consciousness?
The book calls it tapping into infinite intelligence, that universal source we talked about before, like the group gets amplified,
So it's more than just brainstorming.
Way more. It's about aligning your energies, and that actually ties into the next principle.
Which is?
The reality of the sixth sense, probably the most intriguing one, I think.
Okay, when I hear sixth sense, I think like spooky psychic stuff.
It's not about that. The book equates the sixth sense with creative imagination.
That connection to the infinite intelligence.
Exactly. It's the source of those hunches, those moments of inspiration.
So, like intuition, but on steroids.
You could say that. It's seeing beyond the everyday limitations, like getting a bigger perspective. The book says these insights can come from 3 sources.
Let's hear them.
Well, there's infinite intelligence, of course, but also our subconscious mind and even the minds of other people.
Wait, so we're constantly sending and receiving thoughts, even if we're not aware of it?
It's like a radio.
Our brains are broadcasting.
And receiving, sending out our thoughts, but also picking up signals from the universe and each other.
So we're not really isolated individuals.
We're part of this network, constantly influencing each other.
Wow. Okay, and that brings us to the power of the subconscious mind, right?
Principle number 11. It's the bridge between our conscious minds and that infinite intelligence, working all the time to make our desires reality.
So now we're talking about the subconscious actually manifesting things.
Exactly. But it's not about control. It's about influence. You plant those positive thoughts fueled by faith and desire.
But how do we talk to the subconscious?
The book says the language is emotion.
So it's not enough to just think positive, you have to feel it.
That's where the power comes from. Emotions charge our thoughts, make them transmissible.
Like a radio signal.
Exactly. And the book lists the positive and negative emotions.
Wait me with the list.
Positive: desire, faith, love, sex, enthusiasm, romance, and hope. Negative: fear, jealousy, hatred, revenge, greed, superstition, and anger.
Okay, so cultivate the positive, avoid the negative.
Like choosing your radio station. One will always dominate.
Right. But how does this relate to prayer? Because the book talks about that too.
It says the subconscious is the channel through which prayer is transmitted.
Interesting. So it's not just words.
Prayer needs faith, and it has to be free from fear. Fear blocks the signal like static on the radio.
So you have to believe it's possible and truly feel it.
With all your heart. That's how we connect to that universal power.
Okay, so we're not just isolated individuals. We're part of this web of energy.
Yeah.
And our thoughts and feelings have power.
And tools like prayer and the mastermind help us tap into that.
This is pretty mind-blowing stuff.
It is. And it brings us to the 12th principle, all about the brain.
Okay, what about the brain?
It's a broadcasting and receiving station for thought, just like that radio analogy.
So we're always sending and receiving thoughts. But how does that actually work?
Well, through our subconscious, we broadcast our thoughts. And through creative imagination, we receive thoughts from the universe.
A two-way street. So it's not just about putting our intentions out there.
We're also getting guidance back. Inspiration.
Makes you wonder where our original thoughts come from, you know?
That's a big question. But the book focuses on the practical side. It highlights the importance of emotions, again.
Those strong emotions boost the signal.
Exactly, like turning up the volume on your transmitter, making your message heard. Makes you think about collective consciousness, you know?
Like if we all focused on a positive outcome.
Could we actually change things? Interesting thought.
It is. Okay, we're getting to the final two principles. And these feel almost spiritual.
You're right. They take it to a deeper level. Principle 13 is about unlocking the temple of wisdom.
Okay, that sounds intense. What is this temple, and how do we unlock it?
The book says you need to master the other 12 principles first.
So it's like the final level.
You could say that, and it's not a physical place, more a state of consciousness.
Where you're connected to that universal knowledge.
Exactly. It even talks about a guardian angel guiding those who develop their sixth sense.
Whoa. Okay, so we're bringing faith into this now.
It's about trusting something bigger than yourself, letting that intuition guide you. But of course, there's also fear.
Fear can be paralyzing.
And that's the 14th principle, conquering the 6 ghosts of fear. It calls fear the biggest obstacle to success.
6 ghosts. Lay 'em on me.
Poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, old age, and death.
Wow. Heavy stuff. I think we've all felt those at some point. But the book says we can conquer them.
It does, through self-analysis. You have to identify those fears to overcome them.
Because when fear's in control, we don't think straight.
We get stuck. So it's about facing those fears, understanding them.
Not just pretending they're not there.
Exactly. And the book breaks down each one, gives strategies for dealing with them.
Okay, let's start with the fear of poverty. That's a big one for a lot of people these days.
It is. And the book is pretty straightforward. You can't have both poverty and riches. You have to choose.
So shifting your mindset from scarcity to abundance.
It's about developing what it calls money consciousness.
I understand that. But doesn't focusing too much on money lead to, well, being unhappy? How do we balance ambition with contentment?
You're right. It's not about obsessing over money. It's about shifting from fear to empowerment.
Okay, so it's not just about wanting money. It's about changing your whole attitude towards it.
Right. And the book lists the ways fear of poverty shows up. Indifference, indecision, doubt, worry, overcaution, procrastination.
Wow, so fear can manifest in all sorts of ways.
It can be sneaky, so you got to recognize the patterns.
Because fear lies to us, right?
Oh, often, yes.
Yes.
Makes things seem worse than they are. Distorts our thinking. So you have to challenge those thoughts.
Replace them with positive ones.
Exactly. And the book gives practical steps. Make a plan for your finances. Surround yourself with supportive people.
Use that mastermind.
It's a powerful tool against that fear. So it's not just mental, it's also taking action.
I like that. Positive thinking plus a plan plus the right people.
Powerful combination. And then there's the fear of criticism. Ugh, this one gets me.
Oh, tell me about it. I used to be terrified of what people thought, overthinking everything. But then I realized it's often more about them than me.
The book says most people are quicker to criticize than to praise.
It's true. We focus on the negative more.
It's negativity bias, and we can't please everyone, so you got to develop a thick skin.
Focus on the positive feedback.
And remember, criticism often says more about the critic than you.
It's their stuff, not yours. The book has a cool concept for this, right?
The boomerang principle.
That's that.
When someone criticizes you, mentally send it back to them.
Deflect that energy. I like it.
It's taking your power back. Okay, next up, fear of ill health. That one can really take over.
Yeah, it can be all-consuming.
And it comes from two places, the book says. Physical and social heredity.
So we might inherit tendencies toward certain illnesses, but also...
We learn our fears from family and society.
Yeah, it could be passed down.
Or picked up from our environment. So how do we break that cycle? Be balanced, it says. Don't obsess over health, but don't neglect it either.
Find that middle ground.
And remember, stress and negativity impact your health too.
So mental and emotional health are just as important.
It's all connected. The book suggests practicing gratitude, spending time in nature.
Doing things that bring us joy.
Exactly. Nurture your mind and body.
Okay, what about the fear of loss of love? This might be universal. Yeah, it really can. Makes you act kind of crazy sometimes, you know?
It does. You get jealous, clingy, or even push people away because you're so scared of getting hurt. It's a mess.
Exactly. Like you're sabotaging yourself.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, the book says. And the antidote, self-love.
Oh, I know. It sounds cheesy.
It does.
But if you love yourself, you don't need that validation from other people so much.
You're already full. The book calls it building secure attachments based on trust, respect, not that fear and control stuff.
So you're not ignoring the fear, but you're handling it differently.
Yeah.
From a place of strength.
Exactly. Okay, let's talk about a fear most of us try to avoid, getting older.
Ugh, yeah, old age.
It's interesting, though. A lot of that fear comes from society, not the actual aging part.
Totally. Wrinkles, gray hair. It's like we're supposed to be ashamed of it.
The book says, nope. Reframe your thinking. See aging as growth, wisdom, potential.
To embrace it.
Embrace the journey. Each stage has its own beauty. And think of Colonel Sanders. He didn't start KFC until he was 65.
Really? Wow, so it's never too late, huh?
Never too late.
Yeah.
Okay, last fear on the list. The big one.
Death.
The great unknown. But the book says don't fear it. Focus on living a life so full, you face death with no regrets.
Live each day to the fullest.
Yeah. Squeeze every drop out of it.
Accurate.
Because your legacy isn't just your achievements, it's the impact you have on others.
The kindness, the love, all of it.
It's about living a life that matters. What do you want to be remembered for?
Wow. That's a question to ponder.
It is. This book, Change Your Mindset, Change Your Life. It's packed with wisdom, practical advice, but it all comes down to one thing.
Taking action.
Walking the talk. You got to apply these principles. Set goals, make a plan, build that mastermind, and move, even when it's scary.
So it's not passive. You're actively creating your life.
You are. And remember, success is a journey. Enjoy the ride, celebrate the small wins, learn from the stumbles.
Ups and downs, it's all part of it.
But you have the power to shape it all. That's the key takeaway here.
The power to change your mindset, achieve success. It's within you.
Not some secret formula. It's understanding your mind, building good habits, and taking action consistently.
Oh, and don't forget those 6 fears.
Lurking in the shadows. But with awareness, discipline, and those positive principles.
We can conquer them, achieve anything.
I love that. Fear is natural, but it doesn't have to control us. Choose courage, choose action, choose faith.
Powerful stuff. Well, this book is a guide, but the real work starts now.
When you close the book and start living it.
That's it for this deep dive into mindset and success. Thanks for joining us.
Keep challenging those fears and strive for your best self. Until next time.